Hi guys, my name is Yuri, and in this video we are going to take a look at the Capstone project for a course that was completed in 2015. So this course is coming on the tail end of some other courses in computer sciences. We're talking about JavaScript, PHP courses, MySQL, kind of computer science development courses. And the point of this course, I'm going to show you the Capstone project from this course, is really to combine some of those computer science courses before that and to bring them together into a complete web development course. So this course was for people coming out of economics, data science, and transitioning into web development. And I'm going to show you guys the Capstone project that I completed for this course, and the reason is so you guys can see that we can use that as an example to look at some of the underlying principles in terms of web development and how those principles apply within the context of a content management system. So let's go and take a look at that Capstone project. You can see that the Capstone project is called Datafirm, and let's go ahead and launch the server. So we've launched the server, and we are also we can go ahead and we can turn on the cap keys so you can see the keystrokes on the command line here. So we are looking in the repository of the website. So whenever you're looking in the repository of a website based on the content management system that you're looking at, you're going to see some structures, and those structures are going to be closely related to the code base within the content management system. So because this course was building the website from scratch, we're really looking at something that is taking the place kind of a content management system. This is mimicking the function of the content management system, but it's really doing that in the context of 1 month, 2 months worth of code. So it's not the same as a content management system. It's just mimicking the function of the content management system, which is why we're going to use it to explain some of the code that you can see in the content management system. In the next video, I'm going to show you guys how you can, how content management systems treat CSS files, and ultimately every content management system is going to treat the CSS files in more or less a similar way, just using different machinery. So you can you can consider the functions of a content management system. You can imagine a situation, let's say, where you had automotive engineers and they decided to sort of take a car apart and put a car back together. And if they did that across many different cars, you would see similarities within the cars in terms of the function and theoretical construction of the cars itself would be more or less the same. Every car would have a chassis, every car would have a motor, every car would have some components and machinery that essentially serving a function, some functionality. In web development, we're going to be seeing quite the same thing because pretty much browsers are determining the technology and the specifications for web development for websites across the web. As long as those specifications stay the same, then every website is going to ultimately end up achieving the same directives, and the framework that you're using or the content management system that you're using, or the libraries that you're using, and the language that you're using to construct the actual website is going to result in a similar website. So until HTML becomes JSON and the world of the web becomes more distributed, you're going to be seeing sort of the same outcome based on any different content management system. So we're going to use this website as an example to look at some of the theory that underlies, in this case, CSS and how CSS is applied to a website. So let's take a look at this. You can see this is Datafirm, and you can see some UI principles have been used in its design. So it was a quickly designed website. It still does have some UX principles and UI principles. And it's actually not a bad design. In more contemporary, modern website, you might see some divs, some containers that are spanning the full width of the page, and you might see those stacked on top of each other with different colors. So you can see a more modern layout, but we still have some scroll over, so some UX principles involved. You can see that there is a change in the color of the navigation. You can see there's some motion, there's some JavaScript behind here, and we have some functionality in this website as well. We have a login, we have a subscribe form at the bottom here, so you can subscribe. You can see it's attempting to reach a database, and you can see also that it is responsive. So you can see there is changes to the divs and to the structure based on the different device that's appeared that is viewing the website. So if we go ahead and look at how this website appears, it's not a bad website. It has some modern. It has some functionality that's useful and interesting, especially within the context of the course that it was designed with. So you can see it also has some AJAX. So this is client-side code that's accessing some files and making some changes to the content without refreshing the page. And so this is a typical website. So if we go and look into the repository, we'll just walk through some of the files here, and then we can use this as an example in our next video. So let's look at these files. You can see there's a structure. We have an about page, and if we look in this about us, we have some orthogonality. So in terms of orthogonality, orthogonal structure, we're talking about reusing various components. So if you are using a framework that's for components, for example, a framework like this is a PHP framework, but if you're using a React framework, it would be all components again. And we're expecting that even if you're using Laravel, you're going to be using a component structure. Of course, orthogonality is a principle that we're going to find in most of the content management systems, hopefully. So WordPress, of course, has orthogonality, and you're going to be reusing different files across different pages, which is going to make the website more efficient and easier to work on. So here we are looking at the About page. You can see we have a page config, we have some functions, we have a head file and a navigation file and a header file as well. So let's go and look at that page config. You can see the page config is actually in here. So this is some variables that are typically in a content management system. You would see this in the context of the interface where you're entering these variables into the database. In this case, we have put the config in each local directory. So the subdirectory about has its own page config. Typically, you might find a config for the full website. You might find a complete website configuration file here as well if we're talking about some static website content management generators, for example. You can also see that we have some footer in terms of the orthogonality again. So we're reusing the same footer for every website. We have a CSS directory, which is typical in a website, especially in the public directory. So this is the deployed directory, which is what we're seeing here is the deployed directory. So that's the public directory, so where the website is actually being served from. And we're also seeing the content files of the website in the same place. So typically, within a content management system, often you're going to see a separation between the content and the public folder. And in this website, this mimic of a content management system, you're seeing all of these components in the same spot. So again, we have some images. Typically, in a content management system, we're going to have image processing code. In this website, as I recall, the images were processed externally and manually, so there's no included image processing code. However, once again, it achieves the objective of the course. So we can, again, take a look at the JavaScript. So we have a JavaScript directory. And we have some login and logout functionality, some MySQL code. we have some PHP files. We take a look at one of these PHP files. We can see that there is a survey submission file. Now, if we look at the survey submission file, you can see that it has a try catch block, and what we're really looking at here is a session variable. So we are taking some answers from the survey, which are being packaged on the client side, and they're being delivered to this script, which is catching them on the server side and cleaning and trimming them to make sure that there's no HTML injection. So once the code is sanitized, it is combined, and it is processed, and it is turned back into JSON likely and sent to the database itself. So the process is the data is entered on the client side, and it is bundled and sent to this script, which catches it, cleans it, bundles it again, and sends it to the database. So this is a typical type of submission form that you might see in a plugin for WordPress. You might see this same kind of form in some libraries, in some different aspects of the framework that you're working in. So we have also some PDO objects. Our connect objects are in this code. You can see it's connecting to the database. This was originally connecting to an Azure database. And you can see that there's username and host and some other processes so that the database, so that the code itself can access the database. Now, as we are, again, typically if you are working in the context as a developer, you're going to have a lead developer, and the lead developer is going to be ensuring that you are following some procedures. So you're going to find classes for most of this code. We don't see object orientation in this code, but once again, we have achieved a pretty good effect of mimicking the results of a content management system within a pretty short time. And so this website achieves the objective of the course. And as you can see, it goes a little bit beyond, as the course did not include any SCSS files. So there's actually a processing pipeline in this website as well. So you can see that there's a processing pipeline when you look at the package.json. We're using Node npm files, and we are using some various Node libraries. We have auto prefixer, HTML minifier, Node Sass, on change, post CSS, so command line post CSS. So you can see that we are processing the SCSS files and turning them into CSS files, and then we are post-processing, post-CSS processing, and auto prefixers, so we're preparing the CSS for the different browsers, different specifications, and then of course we're minifying HTML, minifying JavaScript as well. So this processing pipeline is external to the code, so you're basically running, producing the website, and then you're going ahead and producing the code for the website. So you're producing the website, and then you are compressing the website. So when we go and we have a look at viewing the page source, you can see that it's all compressed, and that was done as a part of the post-processing. It's an external procedure, another procedure when you are producing this website that you might combine into a script if you were using this. Now, some of the content management systems are actually going to do that processing right within the code base for producing the website. You might find a lot of this processing is done in a WordPress website through some of the plugins as well. So we can just go ahead and take a quick look at anything else that we may have missed. We sort of covered. We have JavaScripts, we have the post-processing, we've got surveys, we have a user template. So the user template is there's a login feature in this website, and we're talking about functionality. And what the login feature says is when a member signs up, becomes a member of the website, then that member can ultimately log into the website. And when they do log into the website, there is a user template that's run that creates a directory for that user. So the user gets their own directory, so that means they get their own web page, and you can, within the context of this sort of mimicry of a content management system, you can produce content that's specific to that user. So you would see a similar process, a similar result if you are using a plugin or if you are using a theme that integrates with your WordPress system, using WordPress as an example, and of course some of the other vendor login paid content management systems are going to achieve a similar objective in terms of how they treat memberships. So you can talk about Shopify or Wix or Squarespace. Each one of those, or many of the other content management systems, are ultimately going to be achieving the same objective with the code. So you can see there's also a composer.json here. So that's a PHP, the equivalent of a package.json. It's for the composer system, which is another package management system, not for Node, but for PHP. So this composer system would be one way that you could, for example, introduce some automation in the context of the blog. So we're really looking at the inchoate content management system. If you were to keep building this website out for a few more years, it would develop into a kind of a content management system. You wouldn't be doing that because these days you just use a content management system, and you wouldn't really be building a website from scratch unless you were building it as the Capstone project for a course. So we're going to, in the next video, we're going to look at how CSS files are used in the context of a content management system. There's some treatment for CSS files that occurs. Pretty much every content management system is going to be treating CSS files in that way. So that's the introduction to the Datafirm website. You can actually have a look at this if you wanted to at datafirm.ca. It is sitting on a free host somewhere. There's very little memory. There's no compression and not a lot of CPU, because that is, of course, a free host. So what you're going to see is just a sample of the code. Of course, it hasn't been optimized for efficiency or speed or any of those things that we would typically want to as a website, a big plus website. So we're looking at this as an example of how you can build up some of the features of your website. So in the next video, we're going to look at those CSS files. Thanks so much for watching, and